Indiana Fever and Portland Fire because I found it interesting. They had that game where Fever won 90-73, and I believe Suggs had 14 points, was the second leading scorer on that team, the Portland Fire team. It's a myriad of things I want to discuss concerning those two franchises. First, let's start with the game and the 90 versus 73. That 90 versus 73 comes without a Caitlin Clark present. Caitlin Clark was reported to have had a back injury, and that was the reason why she was out. I read via social media that it was reported that wasn't reported to the league properly and that they were investigating her injury report. With all of that, I think it came out in the wash. Nothing was nothing. Cool, whatever. I have my hypothesis, speculations, and alleged leads from what we've seen. And what we've seen based on Brianna's January and her dynamic with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin has been able to perform in a way that would have gotten other players banished to Mexico or banished to China to play and never to be back in this league again, or to hope and pray that you impress upon the heart of a loving coach that could do some moving and shaking to get you back in the league. That would be her narrative if she was anybody other than Caitlin. My question, before I get to my question, based on a behavior, and this isn't just Caitlin, because I want to address something else. Sophie Cunningham is Caitlin Clark's veteran. Hi, Flores. But Sophie Cunningham is Caitlin's veteran. And the way Sophie behaves with Brianna January is about the same temperature in which Caitlin behaves with Brianna January. So if there was some internal reprimanding of Caitlin that got hashed out as an injury, as a back injury, we can hypothesize. But what is the explanation for that behavior? I think we need to look at when people have all this criticism from Stephanie White and the way she's handling all of the organization, well, the team dynamic and everything. I find it interesting. This is another layer of it too. I find it interesting that when Caitlin is out, the dynamic on the court becomes very smooth. And this was proven last season when Caitlin went out with the growing injury last season. The team went all the way to the, I think, semifinals. And that was off the back of Mitchell and Boston. If that is who is powering the victories to be the substance behind Caitlin, then at what point do we analyze the Caitlin experiment? Because here's my question as far as Caitlin is concerned. What has she substantively shown in the matter of this would be year 3 years, that substantiates her being coddled in the way that no other players get these concessions. You get to openly, you're not, Asia doesn't even behave like this. And Asia is an MVP 4 times over and a champion 4 times over. And with that, Angel even doesn't behave like that. And Angel, what is it in the resume that qualifies Caitlyn to have these concessions other players don't have? That was my question for the record with that team, that franchise. And the public, on the Portland side, Portland had that bad loss against Indiana, 73-90. And they made some interesting waves after the game. And those waves were Suggs, and I forget the other two, Hayes and Kamaya. I believe those were the other two. But I found that interesting how they lined up ends up being very international instead of domesticated labor. It's more of a flavor of, you know how in Canada, Toronto Raptors assembles their team. Many people give concessions to them being an international team, thus they seek international cores. It's the narrative around Toronto. I'm getting the feel like either it's international or it's fail. Like they waived Suggs, and this is the part about the waving system in the WNBA that is just a part of the business. I have no um, qualms about business of it, but it is sentimental in that, take for instance the Aces, where Asia, and my homegirl brought this to my attention. Oh, hey Isaac. But my homegirl brought this to my attention when she said that all the rookies that Asia favored got swept away from her. And if you notice, the rookies that got swept away from her got cut. Her favorite, Kate Martin and Aaliyah Nye, are two rookies who got expansion draft swept away from her and then waived from their expansion suite. If he was going to do that, then leave her with her rookies. It looked like they had space to develop, but all works out for the good for my team. But in the greater scheme of the individual player, especially when it comes to players like Suggs, Suggs is a productive player. Now, you may not have a system right in place that in the initial stages of that franchise that could facilitate the chemistry, that facilitates the productivity of efficiency for many of the players on that roster. However, that doesn't mean grace shouldn't be given to certain players that has a track record in this league of being productive and being professional. It's interesting the cuts that Portland made. It gives international. Other people would say in a more societally fundamental way of America, it is very, uh, you know, the domesticated market isn't looking, they're not looking out for the domesticated market, labor market in Portland. Not at all. They said, no, Negro, you got to go. It gives that. But with that being said, I thought it was an interesting, um, I think a bit messy, if you will, what's going on in those two markets. But to the ethos, tell the future, I said so. And thank you for listening if you did.